If the last person leaving the Mark Robinson campaign could please turn out the lights, because following an exodus this weekend among the Republicans' top staff, North Carolina Public Radio reports there are only 3 people left working for his campaign for governor, 2 spokespeople and a bodyguard. The campaign says none of the 4 major resignations this weekend were related to Robinson's latest scandal, although they provided no reasoning. It is worth noting how soon these departures happened after the scandal was reported by CNN, detailing salacious, anti-Semitic and racist comments he allegedly made on a porn site years before he entered politics. And Robinson denies it and says he's staying in the race for North Carolina governor. That report from CNN has not been verified by NBC News. But importantly, Robinson is currently the lieutenant governor of the state. He's also, more importantly, politically speaking, Donald Trump's choice, his only choice. Even still, sources telling NBC News the disgraced ex-president has no plans to pull his endorsement, which has been enthusiastic and vigorous for Robinson, although Trump did not appear with or even go so far as to mention Robinson's name at a North Carolina rally Saturday. The rest of the Republican Party appears to be trying to walk some sort of tightrope, condemning Robinson's alleged comments, but stopping short of demanding any accountability at all. Try to make sense of this non-answer from the most unpopular vice presidential nominee.
Do you believe him that those were not his posts?
I don't not believe him. I don't believe him. I just think that you have to let these things sometimes play out in the court of public opinion. He's going to make whatever arguments he wants to make. I'm sure the news media and others are going to investigate these comments further. I just think that fundamentally it's Mark Robinson and the people of North Carolina that get to decide whether he's their governor, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Stop right here. This is a guy who just revealed he doesn't believe in a truth, right? I don't not believe him. We're going to let this play out in the media. The same guy who said in an interview with a journalist, I created the story about people eating cats and dogs. Joining our conversation, senior opinion writer and columnist for the Boston Globe, MSNBC political analyst Kim Atkins-Storr is here. Eddie's back with us. I mean, Kim, in some ways, the smear on Haitian immigrants who happen to be his constituents, for whom he has no regard of their safety and security or integrity or right to live free, happy lives, and the non-answer to Robinson are inextricably linked, right? He stands for nothing and no one. So he cannot protect his own constituents living in his own state, and he will not condemn someone who is the subject of reporting that is enough to get his staff to flee in mass. I was a campaign staffer at a state level. When you're in your 20s, you don't make a lot of money. These are people without the kind of financial backers like J.D. Vance has, and they were quitting their promising, career-building jobs on a Republican campaign of a Trump-backed candidate for governor in a pretty purple, trending red state of North Carolina. And they walked away, something J.D. Vance could not do.
Yeah, it is inextricably linked, Nicole. You're right. And it's also linked to the previous conversation that you were having about the Republican Party writ large and its embrace of Donald Trump. If I were a Republican who believed in, small government and, strong defense and, tax reform, I would feel furious right now because the party has chosen MAGA over that. And this is what you get. You have a campaign full of people who are working. And Nicole, you can attest, campaign work is hard. You need dedicated people to do it. So if those people are walking away and saying, I can't back this person, and all that's left are 3 people, that says a lot. But what says more is that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and everybody in MAGA world is going to stick with it because winning is more important than anything. It's just a symptom of what has happened to a party that once was about debating differences with Democrats because they believed that their views were better. A party of people like John McCain who chastised someone who slurred Obama to his face and said, no, he's a good man who loves our country. We just have very different ideas of what it would take to make it meet its potential. But this is where we are now.
Kim, let me show you what Senator Raphael Warnock had to say to my colleague Jen Psaki.
I can tell you as the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. served, that Mark Robinson is no Martin Luther King Jr. He is the antithesis of everything that Dr. King represented. He is white supremacy in blackface. As he talks about his desire to bring slavery back. I mean, this talk is way beyond the pale, calling himself a black Nazi. These are his words. And I think that the people of North Carolina need to take note of the fact that this is Donald Trump's candidate. This is who he keeps pushing and encouraging. This is who he thinks should represent them. But Donald Trump has a long history of this. He tried this in my race. This is not the first time he has put forward a black candidate who is unfit and unqualified to serve, with the cynical notion that somehow the electorate will be confused about who this person represents. The people of North Carolina deserve better. They've got real issues that they're trying to address, and they're going to see through Mark Robinson just in the same way that the people of Georgia saw through my opponent.
This every time I hear it, it's shocking. He is white supremacy in blackface. That's where we are, Kim.
It is where we are, but we've been here before. I think a lot of people don't understand when I say one of the reasons that people still support Donald Trump, whether it's women who know that he's going to take their reproductive rights away or others. I say a big reason is the protection of white privilege, the protection of white supremacy. And people say, well, wait, how can Black people protect white privilege and white supremacy? That has happened since the beginning of our nation. You don't have to be a white person to feel that you can benefit from the protection of having white people in power at the expense of others. So long as you sidle up to them, it is in your political interest, it is in your financial interest. We have always seen Black and brown people line up in that, a small percentage overall, but enough because they think it's in their interest. Just because the candidate is not a white person does not mean that white supremacy is not in play. You don't always see candidates say it as plainly as they did in this case, calling themselves a black Nazi, but you see it there. I made the same statement when Herschel Walker was running. That is what that was about. We're seeing it right in front of our faces.